What's up to all our sidekicks and henchmen out there in the Geek Nation? My name is Noel. I am a ad hoc host, coming to you live from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, not in JD's shop. With me today is Len.
Yo, what's up? Holla at your boy. This is Len, a.k.a. the Bat Tribble. Good morning.
As well as...
Brian. I did it.
What? Can you do it close to the mic? No, yeah. So obviously we're a person down this morning, which might end up being the new norm for a couple of weeks.
Oh, but we're just hearing from him now.
Oh,
he's going to be nude while he listens to this in the shower.
Oh, is he jumping in the comments already?
I gotta say,
of course.
We've got a viewer.
Will he be commenting while in the shower?
Of course.
Is what I want to say.
Yeah, this might be the new norm on and off for the next couple of weeks as JD prepares his mental, soul, physical space for a new life in this world. It's going to happen imminently. So we're just going to try and keep the wheels on the cart while he's not here, and he's going to jump in and out whenever he can. So, I mean, thank you for being here. We're going to talk about this week's comics.
No, if you don't mind, where is here? What are we?
We're the CultPop podcast. We're the spoiler alert.
There you go.
Oh, I didn't do that?
No,
we didn't say what's up to our sidekicks and henchmen. But whatever.
I thought I did. Oh, you know what? Okay.
I'm giving you JD notes in real time.
We're doing this live. Hold on. What's up to all our sidekicks and henchmen out there in the Geek Nation? Thank you for joining us today. The Spoiler Alert podcast, where we talk about last week's comments. We're going to review a couple. We're going to talk about pop culture stuff. We're going to have a really good time, and you're going to sit here and watch us.
Sure. You know what? I think we actually have switched. Oh yeah, sorry. we have switched to hench people, and I started the ball rolling wrong on that one by saying henchmen.
Hench people, hench folk.
Hench folk. Yeah, I like that one.
Side henches.
How about
I like
henches?
Gentlethorpes.
Henches?
I want to try to get that going from Futurama. You remember when Hedonism Bot says courtesans and Gentlethorpes? I try to slip Gentlethorpes into the world.
If you socialize it enough, then I think at least one person.
That's me.
Will also start to adopt it.
Sweet.
One other person. You don't count. Yeah, one other person.
Yeah. All right. Cool. I can hit that bar.
So I think that we're gonna just end up getting right into the books this week because we do not have any letters, do we?
Oh.
No, we do not have any letters.
Before we, I don't know. Do you guys want to vamp for 2 minutes before we get into the books? Is there anything cool that you watched or saw or read that we're not going to talk about today?
Dude,
Yeah.
I last night spent 3 hours, not 1, not 2, 3 hours standing up, pacing wildly, gesticulating like a madman, watching the last 3 episodes of the most recent season of The Expanse on Amazon. That is how much I was into every little thing that was happening on that show. I've enjoyed The Expanse from I watched it early on when it first gave birth on Sci-Fi, but I kind of like fell off a little bit. And then when it moved to Amazon, I said, enough people have been in my ear, including my partner on the Michelle mission. Let me check out this show. And I binged the whole series on Amazon when its first new season hit there. And I've been in for that show ever since. It's deep, it's metaphysical, it's strange, it's funky, it's sexy, it's got the best aspects of Star Trek with the best aspects of the Battlestar Galactica reboot. It's got adventure, it's got good comedy, it's got pathos. It's multicultural in its look and its lens. The politics of it that it presents.
They create. Like the whole new dialect and everything. That's cool.
Oh my God. It is such a good show, man. And I was riveted to the screen last night. I love that show. I love The Expanse.
I really like what's his name? Tom Jane. Tom's Jane in it. Plays a very interesting character. Like he just does it really well. And the story goes in different directions. That's not this most recent season, but yeah, the recent season wrapped up very interestingly, and I'm really looking forward to what they do with the 6th and final season.
Oh, is this going to be the final? Oh!
It is. Yeah.
I mean, you can make it last longer and make it a job. Like, do an Expanse podcast for the last season. Just do every episode deep dive for like 2 hours. Because
I get in on some of that.
I've never watched it, guys. It's been on the short list. It's just, yeah. I like the way that we pick shows is just incredibly arbitrary, including movies. Last night we made a bad choice and watched a movie that we did not like. It was called Possessor.
I don't know.
Brandon Cronenberg's new movie.
Is he the son of David Cronenberg? He
is the son of David Cronenberg, so you can imagine there's a little bit of body horror and or oogie-oogies. It's just essentially about an assassin that's able to hijack other people's bodies by being inside their head, and things go awry, and it was gross. I mean, it was incredibly graphic. It was incredibly meditative. It was incredibly ambiguous. So it was just like 2 hours of watching a very high quality art film. So I was like, all right. I mean, it's fine.
Speaking of graphic, I also watched this week all 8 episodes of the first season of HBO's Perry Mason show.
Oh, yeah, with Tatiana Maslany.
Yeah. And I think Matthew Steiner. I'm drawing a blank on the lead actor's name.
But like that is a something. The Americans guy.
Yeah, right. The guy, brother from the Americans. And it's a very good show. I enjoyed it. It's a period piece set definitely back in the early part of the 20th century. It's Perry Mason before he becomes Perry Mason. It's almost like the secret origin of Perry Mason. And it definitely very much is like a secret origin, because when he becomes the Perry Mason that the world at large knows, you're like, get the fuck out of here. But that's how he became it, based on the books. But
there's books?
Yeah. I didn't even know this was based on books. But it is a very graphic show, though. I mean, I guess you come to expect that from HBO, but it's graphic in a different way, because it's not titties all over the place. Like
where are they?
I don't know. They're not in Perry Mason, but what is in Perry Mason is there is a dead baby. And I don't mean like, they talk about a dead baby. They show a dead baby multiple times. And there is an autopsy on somebody who didn't get a bullet hole through his head. He got his head blasted open. And there is an autopsy on this head. That is, I'm like, whoa. It just took me out of it. I wasn't ready for that. But I enjoyed the series. So it was cool.
Yeah, we won't dwell on it. Yeah, usually I don't cringe at gore at all. It's just very long takes, very explicitly like, look at this, look at this, look at this, look at this,
Yeah.
of a needle going into an arm and just like, anyway. We do have a letter, apparently. JD just shot it to me. I have to read the title of the letter first before getting into the giant missive that is the letter. It is titled, I'm going to need somebody from DC to end this future state nonsense.
Oh, it sounds like a Christopher Goodnight email.
Oh, skipping to the end, are we? Anyway. First, I'm going to need JD to read the title of this email.
Done.
It's not JD, but you're just going to have to deal.
It was read.
Secondly, I'm going to need an explanation as to how all of this nonsense started at the same time in multiple cities, and I'm going to need a timeline because some books/stories seem to be coexisting while others are far in the future, 25 years later, and the lanterns are still this depowered. The future ain't looking so bright, is it? I'm fine with the idea of legacy characters, but honestly, none of this makes any sense. The new Justice League would be an awesome story. It feels very 2099 or Batman Beyond, but the John Kent in it doesn't seem to mesh with the one in Superman of Metropolis. The Titans book, it seems like it is gonna go. It's gonna be good, but the ending was confusing. I feel like all these books should have been Elseworld tales from a new multiverse that was set in the death metal and keeps getting mentioned at the beginning of each of these books, but that doesn't seem to be the case so far. This is everything I have wanted from events before. Stop publishing normal ongoings and just put out the event books. Kind of like what X-Men did with the original Age of Apocalypse, blah, 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 blah. House of M, blah, 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 blah. Books I enjoyed? Swamp Thing, great art. Wonder Woman, great story. Green Lantern, the backups were better than the main story. Dark Detective, both the main and the backups were good art, and the story was fun for now. Justice League, I'm going to need that Flash to stick around. And Teen Titans. It's got me curious about that ending. Also, I mentioned this during JD's unboxing video for the week, but after you guys check out Aftershock Scout's Honor. Chris saying saucy good night. So what do you guys think? I actually, we could talk about it a little bit while we talk about this week's books, because we're going to talk about 2 future state books, but I did have no matter how much I liked or didn't like the books we're going to talk about this week and the future state books that I read this week, I had a bit of a realization, and then I was annoyed. Everything that is being set up in these books will not get any kind of payoff, period. There are going to be some characters that will be ported over, that we'll see earlier versions of, not the future state version of, like Yara Flor is going to get a Wonder Girl book. So yeah, some of these good ideas are going to, and Tim Fox Batman is going to get a prequel miniseries. So there's some characters that might be ported over, but because of the way that this is, we'll get no resolution whatsoever. There's not even a finale book. Like some other events would have like an alpha and omega issue where so like all this stuff with the Magistrate, all this stuff with Peacemaker 1, all this Gotham stuff, all the stuff in Robin, none of it will have any kind of global satisfying climax. And that just kind of ticked me off.
Well, I think we could get into that, but do we want to review the 2 future state books so that they can be part of the conversation?
Yeah.
All right.
As a preamble, that's the email. Let's jump right into the first book we're going to talk about today, which is Future State, The Next Batman, number 3. DC Comics, written by John Ridley, Paul Jenkins, and Jackson Herbert. Those are the 3 writers of the book, with art by Laura Braga, Brandon Jackson, and Sumit Kumar. Breakdowns, of course, by Nick Darrington with the Laura Braga art. We'll go from there. This is the longest solicitation, by the way. The adventures of the next Batman continue. Batman has captured a pair of murderous fugitives, but he faces a tough decision. Leave them for the Magistrate troops, which means certain death, or risk his life and fight his way through Gotham City to deliver them to the GCPD for trial. He's Batman, so there's no other choice. And, in Outsiders, Catania has reunited with Black Lightning, but her old friend and ally has changed, big time. Now, composed of literal Black Lightning, Jefferson Pierce arrives with a dire warning about Duke Thomas and his mission to liberate Gotham from the oppression of the Magistrate. They'll have to work together, and we really mean together, to have any hope of defeating the forces working against them. Plus, in Arkham Knights, Astrid Arkham and her band of maniacal misfits have picked a fight with the Magistrate, and they're not going to back down. On the eve of their mission to the heart of Gotham's fascist occupiers, Croc, Zaz, Phosphorus, Clayface, Harvey, and the rest of the Steel themselves to try and shine a beacon of hope in the darkness, but not everyone will make it out alive. So, I very much liked the first 2 stories of this book. That was this is just like the first issue. So what they're doing is they're having backups be every other issue, continuing backups every other issue. So this is like the first issue where we had an Outsiders backup and an Arkham Knight backup. But the main story, which we talked about the last issue, it's a great premise. You've got 2 murderers. They have very, very good motives with air quotes for the murder that they committed. So Batman is now in a situation where he empathizes with them, doesn't want to see them get killed sight unseen by the Magistrate, but also wants to see them get to justice. So he's in a situation where he has to protect them to get them transported. That's a great conflict. That's a great grounded level conflict for this new Batman. And I was really, really enjoying it. And it was at the end of the issue that I kind of realized oh, so we'll get resolution for this one little conflict, but literally all the world building, we're not going to get anything. And that came into a clearer picture for me with the second backup story, The Outsiders, which just ends with a giant kind of story cliffhanger for 2 main characters and it just said, "The end."
Yeah.
Like, oh, the world you're building is not for me. Cool. It's for someone's head sometime, maybe in 40 years when they want to pick it up in an omnibus. I don't know. So it ticks me off. And I read the third story. Cool art. I already don't remember what happened.
Yeah. No, me neither. Go ahead.
So what did you guys think?
I liked it. I liked the like you said, it's a solid Batman story set in this world that it kind of needs to be set in, which is, because the reason that they are the conflict is based on the magistrate and all of that stuff, and it's set in this future state reality, as opposed to just being a good Batman story that could just as easily be Bruce Wayne in his time. And I continue to like the idea of Batman not having a lot of tech for the reason that he doesn't have a lot of tech. I think it's cool that he, it's not just that he doesn't have any money. It's that, Bruce Wayne levels money. It's that he needs to avoid, they can track him and, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
and I think that's a good reason.
Tech is more of a target than it is a crutch here.
Yeah. And I forgot. So I forgot to read Outsiders last time, and then I got to it, and I was like, "Oh, I haven't read the first one." So I didn't read it either this time. Although I love the whole power transcendence kind of thing, where like Black Lightning, who could just control electricity, then becomes electricity, which is cool. Just as a story, I always like that kind of story.
The explanation that they give for it, I mean, the lack of explanation that they give for it too, is even more indicative of how this whole initiative and event is flawed. It's like, that there's a story there and someone did their their due diligence as a storyteller to kind of tell you what it is or figure it out. But because it's so truncated and this will go nowhere, it's just like a magic thing. It's not important right now.
Magic thing. Yeah.
I mean, he essentially says something to those effect. It was very sobering. Like,
I see. Yeah.
It kept dragging me out. Like as soon as I started getting excited about something, it was just like, oh, this is never gonna be told. Oh, yeah, that's never gonna be told.
I think that's the 1 to 2 major flaws of Future State are, one is very simple. Just put the year that it is in the front of each comic, and you lay it out as a timeline. And that could also be, we're not getting a full story on any of these stories. I mean, the Batman story will wrap up and, but like you were talking about, the world building. But since it takes place over so long of a span of time, some of it's in the 853rd century, that could be all the world that you need if it was just set up a little more like the future history of the DC universe, where maybe you don't see how Jefferson gets, what the deal with his powers is, but somehow that plays out in some other book. And I think that part of it is the changing nature of it, having started as one thing, and then they didn't want to lose all this work, and they wanted to show these concepts, and probably still wanted a way to introduce Yara Flor and the next Batman and the new Flash. But yeah, or maybe just even like an end book. We're so used to that, right? To that being the case.
It doesn't even have to be being used to it so much as it's just good practice.
It feels like it's called for.
Yeah.
Culminate in something.
Yeah. That could even be just like an overview of the whole, because it seems kind of like that's a story that they'd like to tell with this, is episodically showing you this grand future that is kind of happening. But
at least in the Gotham books, The Gotham books have a kind of full world painted and an arc. You've got this new fascist regime that was put in place because something big happened that we don't really even know about yet. It's the perfect kind of, a democracy died because we voted it in kind of thing.
Right.
So that is a good story to end cap with. Forget all the other stuff in Future State that doesn't necessarily make sense. It's just like the Green Lantern stuff. We'll get to that. That's fine. But like the ones that are sharing books, it hurts even more that there's going to be absolutely no resolution for any of this stuff. And if it is, it's going to be like really small pieces of it. Like maybe Dark Detective, the finale of Dark Detective will be him bringing down the entire magistrate, except it won't, because that book exists like 20 years before all the other books that do.
Where the magistrate is still around. Right.
Which is such an opportunity too for, you've got Superman of Metropolis is like young Jonathan Kent, and then you've got the Justice League, which is later than that, and then you've got Superman and Wonder Woman, which is much later than that. And there is this great opportunity to tell one of those, changing eras kind of stories where you get resolution in Superman of Metropolis to maybe you see a large chunk of his life play out, and that's the satisfaction of it. Or you see the large chunk of the future of the DC universe play out, and things pay off from, even from like Dark Detective, something is a ramification way later in the timeline. But that isn't happening. It's just an opportunity that isn't being taken advantage of, unfortunately.
But unfortunately, I mean, look, that's the way it's always been. They want the cake and eat it too. They want there to be this fully fleshed world, and even in the Gotham books, even though they're across different timelines, they want to still have the freedom of being able to show, Bruce Wayne or Selina Kyle or Dick Grayson in these books with a particular look that if you start putting years on there, don't start making sense. You know what I mean? So, and unfortunately, that's just the way it's always been.
Well, they did it though. Like they have that timeline that they published. Yeah, it just wasn't widely available.
But even that kind of has holes in it, though.
Yeah.
Like if you start breaking it down, even that has holes in it. This is like I mean, call it what it is. It's just an ad hoc event of stuff that was going to get pulped if they didn't do something with it.
They're doing something with it, right?
Yeah. But
wait a minute.
Put it in a bow. Just put it in a bow. That's all I want.
What I found, I enjoyed the first two stories in this as well, right? The Batman story is just a solid Batman story. The Outsider story, I was kind of like with you the same way, Noah. I was like, wait a minute, this is it? Like there's not going to be any more? Like I can't even expect this to get picked up someplace else, especially because I was enjoying the depiction of those characters as well as I was just enjoying the world that story was just setting up,
When was the last time we got good Duke? Like
exactly, right?
He's a great character that no one uses.
Or Katana. There's not a lot of people doing anything with Katana either, right? So I was really enjoying that. I didn't give a fuck about the last story. I didn't read it, never read it, won't read it, don't care. Art looked kind of interesting. I'll wait to get another assignment. But the most frustrating part about this book, and that is in the Batman story, and as much as I do like it, this story... I was looking at it. John Darrington does the breakdowns. Laura Braga finishes it, and I think if you look at Laura Braga's art in other places, you can tell that this is more her than John Darrington. Nick Darrington. John Ridley's the writer, and it's a good story. But with irregardless of that, they still make a pretty good match. It's not bad art. But the problem with this is on a production level, a process level, and that is two things for me. One is the thick borders that they use on all of the panels, and two is the coloring, which is done by Arif Prianto, and it's not bad coloring. And while I don't necessarily enjoy those thick borders, they're not that distracting. But what they do, though, to me, is they do not add any type of atmosphere or mood to this story, which is what is missing. It is what was there with issue 1 with Nick Darrington did the art.
This is like explicit Nick Darrington style colors and borders, though. So
okay, maybe the borders.
I think they're trying to fill the gap by maintaining like consistency of coloring and layout.
I don't know,
even though it doesn't necessarily work as well when it's not Nick Darrington.
And maybe that is it, because I was looking for, and I couldn't find it. I ultimately deleted the first issue, and I felt that the mood between art and coloring was more impactful there than in here. Like the scenes where in this issue that are set in the police office versus set in like some abandoned church, it looks like. They have the exact same feel. Whereas in other books, and I like to think that in the Nick Darrington in the first issue, I felt that's where we were. There was a mood that was set that I felt was missing from this. And that mood is very much in place in the other Gotham books. That mood is very much in place in the second story, in the Outsider story. And whether or not it's a 100% consistent mood, it is still just a mood and an atmosphere that those books create. And I don't feel any type of atmosphere from this. I just feel good art. And that's not a bad thing, but when the first issue set me up for something different, it's just something that I felt was missing and made me enjoy the story that much less.
It's a weird choice, right? Like, why have one artist on the first issue, other than the fact that he's a really cool artist? And I mean, they kind of have a like the first issue is an introduction of the next Batman, and then the 2 and 3 are a story, to be a different story. Mm-hmm. And so you could kind of see if it's an ongoing series, why it would change from one artist to another. But in this case, if there's like 4 issues total, it seems a little odd to have 2 different artists,
Yeah, but it may
speed.
It may come down to his speed. It may come down to when they finally decided what they were going to do with this whole initiative, and then by then he's signed on to other stuff. So he's like, I'll give you the breakdowns. I'll give you what maybe I probably already started on there. Yeah. So
because I think she's a capable. If Nick Darrington is not around, you know what I mean? Like, like she does a really good job with kind of having a similar style to that first one. I mean, it may be her own style anyway, and they just happen to be similar artists, or she may be trying to do this. I don't know.
I particularly like her character acting. So there was 2 or 3 scenes with the random head bad guy cop, nameless, with the mustache, that were just really, really effective because of her facial acting. So like there's in one scene when Batman and the fugitives get away, he gets his nose kind of broken, but it's a little off panel. But the next one you actually see him with like tape on his nose, and it's just a lot of really good like artist business between the scenes to kind of keep you following in a background narrative way, which, because she's a great artist, it's just it's just a tough act to follow. Nick Darrington's an incredibly tough act to follow.
Good.
Period. Yeah. When this all together, this would probably be collected well. I'm sorry, I thought I had the first issue down here. My short box is right next to me, but I couldn't find it, so I was like, "We're done."
That's cool. Don't worry about it.
I've still got it on my tablet. If there's anything that we wanted to check out,
that's not really. It's cool. It's fine. And it's my nitpick. It's fine. Keep it moving.
You know what? The whole future state thing kind of, in a way, reminds me of. Do you remember, guys, when they did 1 year later and they jumped ahead a year and they had all kind of interesting changes, and those were interesting. And the original idea was that 52, the weekly series, would tell you how the DC universe got to the 1 year later point. And from what I've heard, they realized fairly early on that is not interesting. You're like, the interesting stuff is being revealed in 1 year later, as and the intrigue of the whole jump forward is there. So just being told how it gets there isn't that cool, and they decided to do something else.
But
this in a way reminds me. Yeah.
But they still capped everything off at the end of 52, even though it became its own story, and kept the 1 year later stuff moving forward.
Well, no, I mean, I'm more reminded of the 52 by what it looks like could be about to happen with like Yara Flor and the Flash and this Batman in DC Comics, where it'll be a little different because this stuff is not, this is just one possible future and we don't know that it's moving to this. But, you know, we've seen this character as the next Batman and that's cool. So what amount of that coolness will be in that, you know, here he is before he becomes the next Batman, you know, that kind of thing.
I got you.
Yeah, alone, that'll probably be a fun miniseries. I'm just very jaded about this entire event because it's just slapdash. It has no.
I'm more worried about it with Yara Flor, honestly.
It has no narrative weight. Well, you know, let's talk about Yara Flor because.
Let's do it.
So the other Future State book we're going to talk about this week is Future State Wonder Woman #2. With art and written by Joelle Jones. Emerging from the Amazon rainforest, the new Wonder Woman must battle her way through hell. Witness Yara Flor at the height of her power as she takes on the king of the underworld, Hades himself. Betrayed by a close ally, Yara's back is against the wall and she's forced to battle legions of demons for survival and to liberate her Themyscirian sister. You won't want to miss the exciting conclusion to this rising superhero's first adventure. This is my favorite Future State book, bar none. It's done. This is the best thing that come out of this line. This is 2 issues of an amazing introductory story. It is a future of this character in the full role, but it doesn't depend on everything around her being aged up or futurified. It's really just a supernatural story of this potential legacy character, and
other than that thing in the beginning, the very beginning of issue 1, actually no, that might have been in Superman and Wonder Woman. There's no time setting. It's it's just the new Wonder Woman. Look at her, there she goes. Like this could be 4,000 years from now or 15 years from now. It doesn't matter, and they don't bog down the story the story they're telling with details like that like some of the other books do. I love this. I loved every effing panel of this. This was one of my favorite books this week. There's a couple others that we're not even going to talk about that were better, but this was fantastic. I totally agree with you. This is definitely my favorite Future State book by a decent amount. Like there's other ones that I like, but this one just really draws you in, and it's got that balance of superhero and mythological kind of stuff that I like when done well.
Look at that ridiculousness.
Is that who's that? Is that Joelle as well?
No, this is Jenny Frison cover.
Okay.
See, the costume is cool too. Like it's a well-designed Wonder Woman costume. I like her bolo thing. That's probably not the real name of that weapon, but the thing with the balls on the end. And like I said, the reason that I'm worried about her is that this book is awesome, and it said it in the solicit. This is Wonder Woman at the height of her power, right? Or something like that. So Wonder Girl is not going to be that. It's going to be the story of her becoming this, and it could still be awesome. It's just that this is really good too.
I am more excited about this one than anything else coming out of because it's this exact same creative team. It's Joelle Jones.
That's true.
Telling young versions, a younger version of this amazing character. Also, too, the preview panel that they've shown of that book is also an awesome costume. She's younger and she's got like the war paint like this other character does across her eyes, which I assume is a sort of rank almost. And she's kissing her bicep. So that character is still there. Like she's an arrogant asshole. And I cannot wait for that book. I'm on that pull.
And she probably more so because she is a teenager. You know what I mean? And honestly, I'm intrigued by that one, first and foremost, because it is the same creative team, Joelle Jones doing fantastic work. And two, because let's be honest, the concept of Wonder Girl itself has never truly been explored by DC, except, because Wonder Girl originally, when the concept of Wonder Girl was originally created, it was the adventures of Wonder Woman as a kid. So it was a totally different character. Then when they locked on that it was going to be Donna Troy, that was only because they wanted to put a woman in the Teen Titans back in the 60s. So they they saw Wonder Girl in these old comic books. Let's throw her in here. Didn't care about the continuity that was actually supposed to be Wonder Woman as a young kid. So they had to backtrack a story for Donna Troy in the Teen Titans. And that is really where the history of the Wonder Girl has grown. So she's never really been allowed to be a character of her own. And I think taking this character and finding some type of way to keep her in the DC universe proper by having her truly be a Wonder Girl instead of these shoehorned Wonder Girls that we've been given in the wake of Donna Troy and them messing her up a la Wally West, I think is smart. It is inventive, and it is also acknowledging that they realized that this whole future state stuff was a clusterfuck except for Wonder Woman. Because Joelle Jones' Wonder Woman is just breathtaking on every level. The storytelling, the storytelling is intricate, but not convoluted, not too complex, not over your head. You can still catch what's going on.
This is the benefit of a writer and artist, right? They are able, like she can tell the story without words. Like,
right.
The first draft of this story is without dialogue laid out on the page. So there's no disconnection between the writer and the artist. Joelle Jones just is telling this full story, full stop, and it's seamless and it's wonderful.
Right.
Like
you don't have
her design choices are really cool. Like not just the costume, but like all of the elements of this world. There's really cool.
Just the simple things of like there's a panel where she looks surprised and shocked, and the coloring behind her is like a dot matrix. It's here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which doesn't feel like it should belong in a book like this, especially if like the setting that they're in for the story. But it's just it all really works in a very almost like a music video kind of way, but not in a derogatory kind of way. Like it's almost like quick cuts, but really really artistic. Like it's really good.
I'm really intrigued to see how her design and panel layouts play out in the more quote unquote real world aspect of this character, because this story for the most part does have the benefit of being set in a different world, in hell, for what I'm saying. So you can definitely play around with aspect ratios and having characters standing outside of the panel and talking to the character inside. And it works. It's beautiful.
So are you saying that the art and story choices in this might be, or you're wondering if they are the choices of the storyteller or if it's maybe the setting? No. So what's it going to be like if she's just in Metropolis? What's that going to look like? Is it going to be kind of?
Although we see her do a couple of different things, which are cool, like very different from each other. When she's remembering how this compatriot of hers saved her life, it's all that like all in red kind of thing, which is very very different.
It's very much a center yourself in the middle of hell. Like remember yourself in the middle of hell. Like
it's a good story. I don't even completely differently too. Like he is done in this like negative light kind of sense. It's very cool.
Everyone really should just pick these 2 issues up.
Yeah.
I don't even want to talk about how they end. These 2 issues are spectacular.
No, all I was saying, I was heartbroken that it ended because 1, I wanted more, and 2, I never thought that I would buy a trade that is going to be this small, but I'm going to buy this trade.
Why is this one of the 2-issue ones, right?
This should have been like one of the 4s. There's a request in the comments. I will get to it, but I will say I hope that they do collect this, and maybe with her first arc on the regular book, and we get to see like some oversized Joelle Jones art. This book is just great.
Speaking of real quick before you get to the comments, sorry to cut you off, B. Yeah. The other thing that I did want to mention in reading this book, and especially coming off of the next Batman, and to a couple of the other books that we are going to read and review. It's been happening for the last few years, but for whatever reason, it's really starting to, it's really hitting home with me, and I applaud it so much. The uplifting and the championing of women artists in comic books. When I was reading the comic books, I started taking note of how many books lately we have been reading that are by the big two as well as independents that have women doing the artwork. And we, all three of us, and we'll rank JD and even our unknown spoiler or unheard of spoiler Robert in with them. Yeah. We all know a time when the comic book professional was nothing but a sausage party. Absolutely nothing but a sausage party, except for the rare colorist or letterer, and maybe a writer or two in the course of the 80s and 90s. Walt
Simonson, for instance.
Right, yeah. Right. Or Devin Grayson was dating Mark Waid. You know what I mean? So but now they are in there. They're doing things. They definitely are making their stamp and taking their rightful place behind the scenes in the comic book company, in the publishing world, as well as in the production and producing of these comic books. And I just want to say I'm all for it.
Yeah, and it like to double on it. It has been every single genre and style of comic book.
Yes.
Like I immediately think of. We only talked about the first issue here, but I continued the series. Lonely Receiver.
Yeah.
Female artist. It is a body horror. It's an ephemeral body horror book. And for that to be a mostly the writer is male, but the rest of the creative team was female. That would be like unheard of 50 years ago. First of all, a book at that level of weirdness, like published by a major publisher, but then also that it would be by ladies. It's just first it was a stupid notion to begin with, but like it's wild. It's crazy wild. It's awesome. I have a request from JD, who seems he's just jumping from social media to social media to just comment stuff.
Yeah.
Can Brian do 30 seconds on Future State Flash? Did a new issue come out?
It did. A new issue.
You want to do like less than a minute on that?
Yeah. All right. You ready?
Yeah.
I didn't read this book.
Okay. All right. So that wasn't even a thunder round. That was a. All right. Let's talk about our next book. Speaking of female artists and writers, we're going to talk about Luna #1 by Image Comics with art and writing duties by Maria Lovett. When Teresa fatefully crosses paths with the family of the Sun, she believes them to be exactly what anyone else in the late 60s would expect, a hippie cult whose leader claims to have met the divine. But secret blood rituals, powerful drugs, and sex runneth amok will bring Teresa face to face with the truth about the family, herself, and the dark secret behind her dreams. Immortality, magic, and alchemy are the true power of enduring love collide in this new series for mature readers only. What did you guys think of Luna #1? Who wants to go first?
Brian. I thought it was good. This was done entirely, I believe. Well, there's a guy named Scott who was the designer, but Maria Lovett seems to have been the primary creator on this, just as we were talking about, presumably female creator. There were a lot of elements of this book that I liked. Like, it was cool. The art is really well done. The sort of mystical aspects of the book are interesting. Like, I'm interested enough to wonder what's going on and what the deal is. You didn't get quite as much as I would have liked by the end of issue 1 about what the deal is, what's happening and where we're headed. there were a few questions that were raised that were a little more confounding than intriguing. That was like, what's the deal with this person in the cave? I'm not even sure if that may be a different or a future version of the main character, or it may not be. I don't know. For a second, I thought the main guy was a vampire. The main guy of the cult, cult leader.
There was blood drinking and then bloodletting. So
there was, which is often how one is transformed into a vampire.
I was going to say, like, you're not far off by thinking that, considering it was deliberately on the page.
Yeah, and one was from the neck. One of the drinks was from the neck. So there's that. So I'm interested. I thought it was there were a number of cool things in it. Maybe not quite enough to be like, wow, I got to check this out. But
yeah, cool. Other than I'll get into my specific nitpick after maybe Len makes his opinion, but I kind of agree with you. Like this was filled with a very murky and interesting potential that almost got you to a point, but didn't. So like, so far it's just potential now. Like it's interesting design and layout and conflict, but I feel like there was a page short of being a good hook. Like they introduced the hook, but then like it ends. Like it just needed one more second or one more beat to really hook me. This was just like more of a tease. Like this felt like a preview issue or a zero issue. Yeah, not a first issue to really pull you.
You know what? You saying preview issue is spot on, because I think I think 3/4, maybe even 4/5 of this book is all before the credits. It's all tease. It's just everything is just dripping with dread and or intrigue, or at least it's trying to. And can't knock the art, can't knock it. It's beautiful. The layout of this book is spot on. This is a book that reeled me in atmospherically straight from the beginning. I thought I knew exactly where I was, who I was with. It plays around with the visuals, with the panel layouts. It gets you into the mood. There's moments when there is, drugs introduced into the story, and it plays out real well. It's done so that you feel that effect. There's moments in this book where music is played, and as opposed to historically them putting the musical notes and the words playing. No, they bring in all these images, and it fit. You can name the tune. You create the tune that these images are presenting to you. It's very well done, very well thought out. I just think that at the end, the disconnect is with the story, which sounds and reads very much like a story we've read before, and maybe blended with another story that we've read before. I think wherever those two are colliding, it kicked that ball down the lane too far, so that we can't even see it, and thus we're not interested in getting there. And to me, at the end of the day, I think it's a beautiful book. It's just not a book that grabbed me and makes me want to read the next issue.
Yeah, there's a. I'm sorry, I cut Brian off, but there's a. It's very impressive that the artist writer Maria was able to create atmosphere that's almost exclusively in daylight. Other artists would have to kind of create shadow and shade and kind of looming threats using darker colors. This is like pure hippie sunlight. There's one scene that's dark, and because it's one scene that's dark, it's actually incredibly jarring when compared, and it's effective. But the whole design of this book is just very flowery and bright, but it still manages to be menacing and creepy, which is incredibly impressive.
It reminds me a little of the art of a book we read some time ago, Coffin Bound.
You kept reading that, right?
I did keep reading it. I didn't go finish reading it, but I definitely would. The art is similarly. It's like heavy sunlight, but still very moody. And just the line work kind of reminds me of it. Did you guys notice that because some of these panels are signed and dated?
Okay, yeah, that's my nitpick.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as if anybody that isn't aware or doesn't really pay attention to, a lot of like modern comics artists usually get to keep their pages, their original pages, and what they'll do is they'll sell them for profit or archive them. So when they finish like a big splash or something they think will be sellable, they will actually sign the artwork. They'll usually hide it very well.
Mm-hmm.
I swear to God, as soon as I noticed it, almost every other page,
you're looking for
a signed page,
yeah,
and it's so obvious. It's just like it pulled me out of the story at least 6 or 7 times because her autograph is in here.
Well, the first time I was like, "Is that on that tree? Is that is that an element of the story?" And then it took me a little bit to figure out what it was.
Her little badge, Maria Lovett 2019, is everywhere, and I was like, it put a bad taste in my mouth. It was a
little,
Try,
you know what? But you know what? As much as, and I did notice it, and there was a moment when I started to look for it. But one, I have to remember that one, I'm an artist, so I kind of like your trained eye to look for that stuff. We review comics, so we're reading comics on a different level than the average comic book reader. So I don't think the average comic book reader, even if they notice it, I don't know how much it's going to pull them out of the story.
Yeah.
And 3, all 3 of us are well aware of a certain someone who has had a run into problems with their artwork that, if not for sake of having their name hidden in there, might not have a leg to stand on. I am not going to hate on somebody signing their pages.
That makes sense too, though.
As
JD has chimed in.
Artist friend says, sign the pages after they go to print.
You know what? I hear you, but I ain't mad at. I'm not going. I'm still not going to be mad at somebody.
So there's another aspect of that.
Go ahead.
The date goes backwards, which I think reveals something potentially interesting.
On it?
But that
she's been working on it for like 2 years.
Well, sure, but I mean the later pages were done first, which I think is it's 2020 in the first few of them, and then it goes to 2019. And I wonder if she was like, I have this idea about this cave and whatever. Yeah,
she's the artist. She's the artist on Faithless with Brian Azzarello, also by Boom Studios. And that first series came out around, I think, the end of 2018 or mid 2018. So I presume as soon as that book hit, she started working on this. And I just kind of saw it. So like I didn't read it as first of all, the fact that I know this is kind of, it's not something I like because I saw the signatures also. But the more complicated layouts have the earlier dates versus the slightly easier layouts have the later dates. So like the stuff with the cave, those are the most intricate pages because it probably took her the longest to do, or the first one that she did. So because she is the writer artist, she probably didn't have to create this linearly at all.
Right. And you'll find that most comic book artists, just like directors, they create out of sequence. So that doesn't surprise me at all. Especially if you're the writer and the artist, you can you work on the page that you feel like.
Right.
There's all kinds of shortcuts. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, in looking at this last page,
hard, but there's all kinds of shortcuts.
Sure, of course.
Mentally,
well, that's why shortcuts come in handy. The harder it is. In looking at this last page, I didn't notice this before, but coming out of this guy's wounds, to get back into the story aspect of it, coming out of the wounds seems to be water, which I think is intriguing, especially with the blood stuff from earlier. You know, who knows what that is. They're also in sort of Jesus reminiscent places.
Sort of.
But
he's crucified with holes in his side.
He does have a hole in his
side. And he's got long hair and a beard.
Was there more than one hole?
It's incredibly Christ-like. Yeah, there's like 3.
In Jesus, I mean.
No, 1.
Just The famous
I mean,
one.
the Hallmark version of it
right.
is just one stab. But the realistic version, if like the real version of it is just mangled beyond belief. And yeah. Anyway.
But he doesn't but he doesn't have a beard. I didn't think he had a beard.
He does not have a beard, yeah.
Oh,
and he's chained up, but not it's like it definitely gave me Jesus.
I think that definitely is. I'm just nitpicking that he doesn't have a beard. He's just these are all hippies.
My I think at the end of the day, if this was enough to at least just thematically hook you, this might be a better read collected.
I can see that,
especially if it's going to be as methodically paced as this. And I know like that's support the artist, but maybe pre-order the whole thing or stack a couple issues before you dig into it, because as far as a first issue goes, for me it just doesn't it falls like 10 degrees short of giving you enough to hook. It's just enough to intrigue now, you know. Let's talk about the next book. Let's talk about Deep Beyond #1. Did you get a chance to read this?
Yes, I did.
Deep Beyond #1 by Mirka Andolfo and David Goy, written by Mirka Andolfo and David Goy with art by Andrea Briccardo.
There you go.
In an underpopulated future Earth, devastated by the dire consequences of the Millennium Bug, the survival of mankind, and maybe the planet itself, is handled by a small number of people. Talented scientists who, despite the adverse situation and the stupid feuds that continue to divide the small number of people still alive, try to understand this and study what is hidden in the depths of the abyss. Something mysterious and dangerous, which could eventually cause an even worse and more destructive catastrophe. I thought this book was fun. This felt like a mid-90s underwater alien movie or action movie. It had a bunch of pretty fun character conflicts, like the very, very quickly and in no short order, they introduced like an ex-girlfriend, current wife, secret twin Swiss sister, and and a messy breakup. It was very melodramatic, but I mean that as a compliment. It was very goopy, which you kind of want your horror books, especially like alien underwater ones, to be a little goopy. I don't know. This was fun. This was just fun. It was exactly what it was on the cover, and sometimes that's incredibly commendable. You know, what did you guys think? Anyone?
I felt there was so much in this comic that was like,
oh yeah,
another thing, another pullback, And
it was like Inception. It was like but not in a metaphysical way, just in like this person knows this person.
I was thinking more like that scene in The Office where Michael Scott has the idea for a commercial, and he's like, and you pull back, and it's a girl playing in a sandbox, and you pull back, and it's a desert, and you pull back, and it's all a movie set, and you pull back.
Yes.
Oh, they do that, don't they?
Yeah, there's a lot.
There's a lot of that.
Like it's at a party, but then next day, and then but it starts in the ship, but then it's one day later, but then it's like. You're
and
right.
The woman from the ship is also this person in this other one. You didn't see that.
Yeah, I took it as the beginning of a disaster movie. So like the beginnings of disaster movies really, really quickly introduce all of your characters. It usually starts with like, is that a new seismic reading from the volcano that will never go off? And then they cut to
the party at the volcano,
introducing a couple of people.
Right. So except in this party, the one person murders everybody else for whatever reason.
Because she's a defeatist, a bioterrorist.
Yeah.
I you know what, you're totally right, and that is a knock. But to me, it was like a really good cheesy knock, because that's how all these disaster movies always start, with like, I'm going to quickly introduce you to everyone, and then half of them are going to get killed immediately.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if you're like into it, then it's, if you're like rolling with the stuff as it happens, then
if you like that kind of thing,
like if this is for you,
then you'll love it.
Yeah.
Oh man!
No, but but I mean that sincerely. Like, if you're like,
I mean that sincerely. If you like this garbage,
right.
That's why I was waiting. I'm gonna let you finish, B. But this is why I was waiting for you to go to B, because the whole time you were reading it, I was looking at B's face like, oh, B's like, he's just sitting there like,
What an intriguing perspective. No, but I really do mean that. Like, if you're feeling the like boom boom kind of crazy, madcap nature of it, and it sang for you, then like
in my head this was directed by like Roland Emmerich.
All right.
Or Rennie Harlan. Just like goopy, dumb. It's not, dumb is reductive. It's not a dumb book. It's just very tonally very specific to a style of storytelling that is not for everybody. It is an adventure book, but like a sci-fi adventure book that doesn't necessarily pause to make sense. There's huge info dumps in this book that I would not have tolerated in a different tone, probably, because I already had the high-level sci-fi original movie tone in the back of my head.
Yeah.
So when they get into long paragraphs of exposition, I was just like, yeah, okay. Like it set up a tone for me that I was more accepting of things that I wouldn't have been accepting in a different tone. Like, it's not blanket rules for me usually. What'd you think, Len?
Oh, I don't think B's finished. Go ahead, B.
Oh no, that was pretty much it. Except to say that, like, I wasn't like against this book, like, so much. You know what I mean? Like, when reading it, it wasn't like, what are they doing?
Right.
You know what I mean? It just I didn't feel like there was enough for me personally to like get my footing with that made me that interested in where it's going or what will happen. But it wasn't like, nothing about it was like, this again, what a dumb thing to do, that kind of deal. So
it's funny you went the roads that you did, because I get into deep dives. So I actually just recently watched the original Poseidon Adventure from the 70s, and then watched the remake with Kurt Russell. And then I watched The Towering Inferno. Then I watched the first Airplane. Then I watched 2012. 2012, which is crazy. And then
it's a weird movie.
I think the first Airplane found its way in this.
I mean, disaster movies.
It is a disaster movie.
Yeah.
Not Airplane. I'm sorry. It's Airport. It's the real one of which Airplane is lampooning.
There was an actual movie that is like some whole scenes and dialogue are lifted for Airplane. This is a crazy thing. Yeah. It's wild. They're like, they bought the rights to that movie so that they could make a madcap comedy version of that movie. Because I think it's
similar. I think it's like a 50s film that I actually saw, and it is stupid. Anyway, but so it's funny that you say that. So then when I was reading this comic book, I was definitely getting those same vibes as far as the setup and where it was going. And I was right with you, B, with like every page. Every page was like set up to be like this.
It's a whole other comic.
Big reveal. And I'm like, well, how can you do a big reveal on issue 1? We don't know what's coming up unless I turn the page and this woman is taking off the mask and it's Lois Lane sitting there. Like, you're not going to really surprise me about who it is. You know what I'm saying? Even when they said that, oh my God, you're a twin of so-and-so. I was like, is she? Oh, I guess she is. Did you see the
matching tattoo? That tattoo was real useful. Also, because I was like, wait, is she the scientist woman who's in control? And I went back and I was like, no, she doesn't have a tattoo.
Right.
No, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, like the one that maybe is dead.
Yeah,
definitely filled with boils. It's on the left arm, and the twin has it on the right arm.
Yeah, I did notice that.
I did not notice that.
But at the end of the day, like you said, it's not dumb, but it's an adventure movie. This is
very specific.
This is Megalodon. This is that's just is, man.
I think sci-fi original movie really was the.
Well, you know what? Like a higher
yeah.
production value than that. It's not a joke.
Exactly.
It's just,
exactly.
Okay. Sure. Fair enough.
The only reason I won't go sci-fi. The only reason I won't go sci-fi original movies because when I think sci-fi original movies, I think of the Almighty Thor with Richard Grieco, which is a horrible movie, but I believe was a sci-fi movie. I think of Sharknado, which was a horrible movie.
Yeah,
let's not forget Mansquito,
right?
So which I never saw.
So I'm not going to give them the sci-fi original movie label. I'm not going to do that to them because it's a cut above that. But it is just a crazy, silly comic book, and for that, I'm just like B. If you're into it, I think you'll enjoy it. It can be fun. The art is evocative. It plays around with the layouts and the moods and the coloring. It works on that level. It definitely the intro hooks you in, right away. So rock on with it. And like you said, like Noel said, it's very rare, especially now in the world of variant covers, where a cover gives you exactly what is happening on the inside. And this book does play fair with its reader. So I'm all for it.
It reminds me a little of Kaiju Score in that way, where it's like, if this is your thing, get this thing, do it. Yeah.
Yes. It is in the title.
Right. Kaiju Score.
And a score. Now you got me thinking about 2012. That's the perfect, that movie is the perfect example of screenwriters yes-handing each other. Like, let's end the world. Yeah, but let's make him a driver. Yeah, but he also knows how to fly a plane. Yeah, there's arcs. And and then we'll do this. They just kept going.
Yes,
and to the end, by the end, the movie is just a bunch of people on secret hidden arcs that are traveling to the Antarctic to repopulate it's just a weird fucking movie.
It's a weird effing movie, man.
Can I bring up also just an interesting sometimes ideas bubble up in various places. This is the way that they depict this, whatever the thing is that is taking over, this contamination or whatever, is bubbly, glowing things. And so is it in We Live, Now, they're very different from each other, but it's like that idea, for whatever reason, is in the Gestalt. And I find that kind of thing really interesting.
You know what I find interesting?
What is it?
How people can support the show. Brian, if you'd like to talk a little bit about it.
I would love to. I've been waiting to tell people about patreon.com/JohnnyDestructo. Now, you can go on there and give up to $20 million to us, and more if you want, but also less.
We'll take care of the taxes. You can write it off.
Exactly.
We'll pay them. Don't worry.
Yeah. Are you looking for something to do with your extra $20 million? Send it to patreon.com/JohnnyDestructo. Now, if you don't have that amount of money, you can just like and subscribe, or even give 25 cents. And there's another. Tell people about it in your real life. Just if you see them, you don't have to know those people. Just tell them about the show and tell them to watch it.
If safely with a mask, you could accost someone.
Safely accost them.
Safely.
Yes.
Get their attention by force.
Yeah.
And let them know that we're here every Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to talk about this week's comments.
Mm-hmm. And I think we're going to have another, we did that holiday special kind of thing, and we've got some beginnings of talking about doing another. We don't have any more information about that, but I just wanted to send it out there to you guys that probably won't be at 10:30 in the morning, and it will be a little different.
somewhere I'm in.
Oh, there was a YouTube link there too. We're YouTube, and what is it? Twitch.
We are YouTube. YouTube.com/CultPopGo. Facebook.com/CultPopPodcasts. That's two P's. Pop Podcasts.
Cool.
Subscribe. Do all that jazz.
You were going to say something, Len? I'm sorry.
I just envisioned somewhere JD slipping on like a wet shower floor to try and get to the computer to do a better Patreon commercial. He's just
could there be a better one?
I loved it. Look, I loved it, but you know the Taskmaster. You know how he is.
We got all the pertinent information out. Exactly. He should get used to this for the next couple of weeks as he's rocking his cute new baby to sleep. He's just going to have to internally be upset with us, but not get it right.
We'll see what he says when that 20 million comes rolling in, huh?
You know what? It might work.
Right, we get a big boost in.
Let's settle. 1 million.
That's fine.
Just one.
It's fine. If I didn't make it clear, any amount of money
from zero
doesn't have to end in
20 million.
Yeah, zero.
Are you really living right if you don't have a spare million to give to your favorite podcast?
Also, not as right as you might be.
It's all relative. If I have $10 and my friend needs $1, I'm gonna give him $1.
Exactly.
If you've got 20 million and you consider us your friends, drop a 1.
It's 1 million.
Just drop a 1.
Or if you don't want to see us again, give us $1 million and we'll go away.
Yeah, that's the price.
Yeah.
That's each, though. That's 1 million each, and we'll never do the show again.
It's all
we will do Gutter Talk.
Hey, B, you brought up a real quick. Look, JD's not here. Calm down. No.
Oh, go ahead.
B, you brought up a good idea. We've been thinking about doing, we were futzing around about doing another holiday special.
Yeah.
We should make these Gutter Talks holiday specials. And it's February, and we've got 2 holidays in February that we can focus our show around. President's Day and Valentine's Day. We should do a Gutter Talk President Valentine special.
Presidential romance.
Do we get to,
or is it President Valentine, a fictitious president that we described the life of?
I mean, if you want to go down that path, we're going to be creating fake histories, favorite things, adaptations starring certain actors.
Future state.
Somebody can draw him, we'll know what he looks like. Either way, or
our favorite fictional president.
Ooh, yeah.
As long as we write original poetry, I'm down.
Cool.
I'm with it.
Love poetry. We'll figure it out.
To President Valentine.
Yeah. Oh yeah, our favorite poems to President Valentine. That's exactly how it should go. I mean, should we can keep talking about comics, or
you want to talk about more comics? Is that something that you would like to do?
I'm gonna commandeer the show even more so now, and we're not gonna talk about these books, but there were 2 books I read this week that I think people should. Yeah, I mean, we don't have Thunder Round, so I'm just gonna like squeeze in. This book was amazing. Hellblazer: Rise and Fall.
Oh,
This Tom Taylor. So like the 3rd issue came out this week, and it's a complete story. This was the finale.
Okay.
This was so incredibly good. Pick this up if the issue, they're the super prestige format.
Mm-hmm.
They're hard digitally. So like we all read different formats for the show. These books usually don't translate as well digitally. So if you could eventually pick this up, because the aspect ratio, like the font and the layouts just look different. They look smaller and truncated. This book was great. Like this 3-issue story, like a good, just a one and done-ish kind of thing. It's just a good, if anybody wants to know what John Constantine is like, this is a wonderful entry point. Just like, if you like these types of stories, this type of climax, there you go. It was really, really good.
Nice. That was the final issue?
Yeah, just 3 issues. So I think it's going to be collected. I think it's solicited. The collection is solicited for like March or April.
Cool.
So like they could pick that up at their local comic shop. Let your retailer know and pre-order it. And the other thing is, some really big shit happened in Avengers. Like status quo continuity blowout stuff happened, and no one's talking about it
except
at all. I'm talking about it right now.
What do we got?
It has to do with the Phoenix. It has to do with some Asgardians. Like they are crossing the 2, and it's interesting.
That's interesting.
So
yeah.
So I like this arc, this Enter the Phoenix arc that started with issue 41. This is issue 43. If you're at all interested in either of those things, you should start picking this up. The issues are still available.
I have not been reading Avengers because I am anti all this 9,000 different Avengers comic books. I am anti like every person, like once you get a Marvel badge, you have to also sign up as an Avenger. So I'm very anti that. Like when I heard Conan was an Avenger, I was like,
oh,
this.
I don't read that book.
Okay. However, this past weekend, for reasons that are better left unsaid on this video channel, found my way to reading the last issue of whatever the current ongoing arc is of Savage Avengers, where Conan is one of the Avengers, and I think Doctor Strange is an Avenger. Magic from the New Mutants is in there as well. And I gotta say, while I don't remember a whole lot about the book because I don't have it here, I was reading somebody's comic. It was fun. It was like just like what Deep Cover and Kaiju Score are. Big, dumb comic book. And I had to be honest and just admit that I had fun looking at it. The art was interesting. The story was just big, dumb monster fighting type of shit. And it got me like this close to say, hey, maybe when this is collected, I might try it. No, I won't.
Is this the Deadpool issue?
No, Deadpool's not in it. No.
Like I had heard a little bit about this because I'm not. That's a book I'm not reading. I read the first couple, and the art was by Diodato, and I didn't like it. But it's like a Conan team up this issue, right? Like I heard some people talking about it, like it was really fun. It was surprisingly funny.
Maybe that's the most recent issue. Maybe what I read was not the most recent issue. But this was the issue that I read. So it was definitely the end of an arc. It was definitely the end of an arc. It was fun. It was fun.
The writer is Jerry Duggan. He's got a bunch of artists that jump on and off, but he is very good at taking something I usually don't care about and making it pretty funny. Like his Deadpool run I really liked. His Guardians run I really liked. And he finds ways to make it funny. But I mean, if you want to see a Phoenix imbued Howard the Duck, where are you going to get that?
I do want
to other than Avengers.
I don't want to
current arc.
Maybe a Howard the Duck ongoing that spins out of this.
It's great. This because I know you guys don't watch the Thunder rounds. This whole arc is the Phoenix Force has decided to not make needs a host, doesn't want to bother with the first come first serve thing, and just absconds with a bunch of characters from the Marvel universe and sets up almost like a battle royale. They get a little piece.
Wait, do they have to fight each other for the Phoenix Force?
Yes, they get a little piece of the Phoenix. So you got these Phoenix up characters almost just like fighting. But they don't want to fight and they don't want to win. So they start to try and make it a strategic thing where, all right, so you're going to lose and you're going to do this. And it becomes a thing and not everyone's cooperative. I mean, I like it. Okay. It's really good.
I'm into Phoenix power, like
but then we
just in various characters.
Are you talking about like AVX?
No, I wasn't.
It did happen in that.
It did happen in that. You're right. Yeah.
It's
kind of like Ten of Swords, though.
See, that's what I was going to say. Did we just have a battle royal and 10 of Swords?
Yeah.
I mean, I know that was X-Men. Yeah, but you know what it was. No, don't act like you don't know what it was.
I don't know what you guys are talking about.
You know exactly what it was.
What? Who is Swords?
Look, Jason Aaron is like on a drug-induced fever dream trip and just doing whatever he wants with the Avengers, and I'm here for it. It's
he
fun.
could have plotted that out 2 years ago with no idea that the other guys were plotting out the Ten of Swords.
Because it's all connecting. Yeah. It's all connecting back to like the first arc of the book with the Celestials. Everything is.
I do like Celestials.
Anyway.
Yes.
We had assigned reading, so let's.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. That's right. we actually have a set books that we are reviewing.
We're gonna dip our toes into the event book with King in Black, Black Knight #1 by Simon Spurrier, with art by Jesus Saez. Null's ferocious assault upon Earth has begun, and Dane Whitman, Avenger, hero, and wielder of the mighty ebony blade as the Black Knight, takes up sword and shield to defend against the unstoppable onslaught. Though the blade grants Dane incredible power, so too does it consume him with a lust for violence and destruction. As the endless horde of symbiote dragons darken the skies of Shanghai, will the Black Knight overcome the growing evil within himself and join Arrow and Swordmaster in saving the city? And what secrets will the battle against Null reveal about Dane's past? So, I don't have really any relationship with Black Knight. Mm-hmm. He's always been a fun-ish side character in other books that I've read, but I don't remember really anything about him. The whole concept of him kind of being weirded out or turned into something else or made crazy by the blade I don't remember that being a story point. If it's a new one or not, I don't know. Yeah. But I as soon as I got used to the storytelling structure in this book with the internal dialogue that is in ye old English, but then he speaks in normal. As soon as I kind of got used to that back and forth, knowing these are his thoughts and not an omniscient thought because they were written differently, I started getting into it. But the art crossed that bridge for me. Like it mended that bridge for me because I really, really liked Jesus Saez's art in this. The last time I saw him, done tons of stuff since, but I remember him fondly from the beginning of the Mark Waid's Doctor Strange run, where he took Doctor Strange into space, and it had this same kind of. It's not hyper realistic, but the painted kind of colors give it a texture and a depth that this type of story usually doesn't get.
What is the name for that kind of? Because it's a particular style, like digital painting, or
I don't know, but it's not hyper realistic, but it has more texture than just 4 colors. So it really worked for me with this. I don't know if I would follow this into multiple series. This was just kind of like a nice fill-in. But what did you guys think?
Yeah, like it's like I have some history with the Black Knight, but the history that I have is I don't care. Like I just didn't care about the Black Knight. He was someone that the Avengers would talk about every once in a while, and he would show up. And I never really thought he was a well thought out character, and whenever they took the time to think him out, I just wasn't interested enough to go follow it. And to be honest, I wouldn't have been interested in this comic book either, except for, as Noel just said, the art. The art in this book is the only reason I finished the story at all, because it is absolutely beautiful comic book art from beginning to end. The pencils, the layouts, the colors, the inks, the mood, everything about this comic book from an artistic level is sensational. And with that, I still don't care about the Black Knight. As great as he looked in this book, I still didn't care. There was times when I actually was wishing he was another character. It's like, oh my God, I wish this was Hawkman. So then maybe I might even give a damn a little bit. Or I wish this was Cyclops, a character who I don't care about, but I've always wanted to care about because I actually, at the end of the day, like him. I like when they introduce, Arrow. I'm probably mispronouncing Arrow at the end, and the other character, because now they're two interesting people in the book, even though I think they're kind of like sidelined, which they should be. It's not their book, but I just like that they're introduced in there.
Did they exist before this, or is this?
Arrow actually had they were in I think they're both in the Arrow comic book. I don't know if it was a miniseries or it's still ongoing.
They both had minis, and then they were both members of the new Agents of Atlas that was happening during Empire.
Right.
Like they've been in their own like side minis and stuff for a while.
Right. Yeah. So I knew the characters, so it was very cool to see them show up. You don't really have to know a whole lot about what's happening in the King of Black story to just enjoy this, which is why it's very interesting how many of these side books of this event have been so enjoyable for me. And some of them have been enjoyable more so because of what they've done with the characters, a la the Black Cat one, a la that Hulk short story that we read. And some of them have just been enjoyable because of the artwork. Case in point, I think like that Gwen Stacy Spider Clone, whatever one we read a couple of weeks ago. And this one. And this one is just, the art is so mesmerizing that I found myself like really just sitting there and looking at this book as opposed to reading it, because reading it is, I didn't need it. The story, the art tells the story. They're fighting this big dragon. It's like, he's got a cool sword, and he pulls a sword. He's got the story and the backstory, and he's talking to himself. He's talking to the history of the Black Knights. I'm like, who gives a fuck? But at the end of the day, it's fun, it's enjoyable, it's one story, and it's all I ever need to do with Black Knight.
Yeah, I'm with you guys 100%. The art, like whenever I see a comic that has this kind of art, I'm like, ooh, it's got that kind of art, whatever they call that, you know? And this is a good example of it as well. I think, yeah, there's a realism, but still, you know, I know, Noel, you sometimes take issue, or maybe you as well, then, with Alex Ross, or just painted books in general that look good, but not kinetic, you know?
Yeah, they're usually pretty stilted, like just poses that are pretty, as opposed to action from panel to panel.
And for whatever reason, this style doesn't have that. You know, it can look a little static, but it generally doesn't overall have that kind of feel. I always thought the Black Knight was cool in the sense that, like, he's like a knight, and that's cool. And, you know, he's got, you know, like, I was like, I like his style. I like his kind of deal. It's not like he shows up that often, so I don't have that much of to do with him. But I thought it was unusual to introduce this like major status quo change, what seems like a major status quo change, to him in this comic. Maybe they're getting set to do it somewhere else. Like, he was able to call that other sword, and it turns out his family line is not one of purity. It's actually quite the opposite. Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. Like the idea, it's not that you have to be pure of heart to wield the sword. It's that the sword needs you to be a little empty and callous to work.
Right. Yeah. Like, it won't, if you're pure of heart, you can't use it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was a cool reasoning too. Like, Camelot had people pure of heart, like every other Black. And why did they not choose any of them? And also, this sword design is cool. I mean, it probably pre-existed, but the other guy's sword with the constellations on it, that was pretty cool. The negative qualities, some of them were like, there was a tongue-in-cheek nature to this that I didn't feel landed quite, you know? It wasn't that distracting, but it just didn't.
It doesn't fit.
Yeah, exactly.
The story he's telling in his head is not the story that's matching with the characters that are reacting to him.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, they lean a lot on the joke of, he really is crazy, isn't he? While he's talking to himself in a completely different way. So like, it had a little bit of whiplash back and forth, like it was doing too much. Yeah.
And some reliance on the, like, he's talking in medieval talk, but that was the gag. It kind of seemed like. Now I wonder if he's going to actually play a major role in the King in Black stuff with the sword, and I don't know.
Think so. You know, you know what? Maybe his weapon will get used, or it'll be mentioned somewhere in there.
Part of a larger thing. Well, because he's like, it's one of the only weapons that can kill him. And I'm thinking, also that kid who's part of the main story seems to be able to do something. That might be the one that comes through.
This is the precursor of a mini series that they're doing of him. I think that starts in March. Okay. Yeah, so it'll be like a 5-issue mini by the same writer. So this is like the sample size, or the during an event they'll like give you one hit of a book, and if you like it, you follow them in the mini.
Proof of concept.
Yeah. Well, even so this is what that is. Power in the, like when he fully like aligns himself with his, what he actually has to offer by being somebody who can control the darkness. He gets that like over armor of like black mystic energy. It becomes kind of thing.
It like thematically it becomes a little bit more like a symbiote as opposed to just a weapon to wield. Like he becomes one with it.
Yeah.
So that's probably the little status quo change that they'll do for the new book.
And there were elements, when he's like, I called the sword, and sometimes when it gets excited, it comes point first, so watch out.
That was kind of funny.
Yeah. We're reviewing or checking out the mini or the first issue. I want it to do well. I want the Black Knight to get a little due.
Well, I mean, they're gonna push him. He's a part of the new Eternals movie.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, they're gonna push him.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, Kit Harington.
Yeah, Kit Harington.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, he's dead, which struck me as odd for the Eternals. But I guess because he's like a family line kind of thing, and maybe they'll weave the two stories together. Well, presumably they will weave the two stories together.
There's usually no like rules with the MCU. They're gonna do whatever the hell they want. As in, like, they could just fold the two on each other, living for thousands of years, versus a lineage and a weapon thousands of years old.
Even like a reincarnation thing could easily be applied to the Black Knight, or not. Oh, but I'm looking ahead.
Maybe he's an Eternal. We don't know.
Oh yeah, that's possible. The miniseries looks like it does not have the same.
No, it's not the same artist.
Yeah, that's a shame.
So we got two more. We got two more books real quick. I think we could probably get to the next one pretty quickly. That's Man-Bat #1 by DC Comics, written by Dave Wielgoes, and art by Sumit Kumar. For years, Kirk Langstrom has struggled with his monstrous alter ego, Man-Bat, and the serum that transformed him. But he's finally hit rock bottom following a devastating setback, and is going to take his anger out on every single citizen of Gotham City. Will the combined might of Batman and the GCPD be enough to stop Langstrom once and for all, or will this just be the start of Man-Bat's devastation? We picked this book to read because not only was it interesting looking, but to me it also felt like the end of these types of books, or the last of these types of books at DC, at least for the near future. Having a side character get a miniseries, because if you look ahead at a lot of what the publisher is doing and or the solicits, it's a lot of anthology books, a lot of Trinity books. Just if it's not Batman or Superman related, it's not going to get its own title. It's going to get a backup. So this kind of felt like a last hurrah or a vestigial miniseries that they're just going to kind of push out. So I was interested to see how it kind of read. That being said, solid. It was solid. It felt like it felt like an episode of the animated series for mature audiences. That's all. And not even that much mature audiences.
Yeah. Because the animated series was for mature audiences.
13-year-olds, not 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
Right. This very much kind of fit right in there of they treat I keep saying Angstrom Levy because I want to but Langstrom, Kirk Langstrom.
Yeah.
Right.
They treat him. It's obviously an allegory for addiction and for constantly falling off the wagon. His wife leaves him. He goes on a bender, tries to make it better, and all of this over time has damaged his body beyond repair. So he's got a death sentence. So his whole thing is, I'm going to go out trying to help being this monster. So I mean, it's pretty by the numbers, but for what it is, it's competent and successful. What do you guys think?
No, go big go.
Oh, it is a standard Man-Bat story. It was good. And you mentioned the addiction thing. I thought it was interesting that just this one line where, I forget his history, but I guess in this version at least, he was trying to cure a kind of deafness, and that's what led to the serum that turned him into Man-Bat. And he's like, no, that's the plan still. And there's one line where it's like, once I get this other Man-Bat stuff under control, then I can finally get back to doing that, rather than like, well, you could just be doing that now, which I thought was interesting. I really liked the art was good in general. I really liked the Batman art specifically.
Yes, I did too.
Really cool. The choice of doing the yellow line around the bat, just like a ink line of yellow around the bat on his chest, and of doing the utility belt in black with yellow line, like highlight lines. I thought those were really cool and interesting choices, especially for the bat symbol.
That's the new 52 redesign, right? Like that was a Capullo design, that weird shaped belt that was black, but it had like yellow
highlights. Yeah.
What about the line around because I see that kind of the next Batman has the little pieces of it that was in there too.
Yeah,
that too. Like it's a full black, but it's got yellow because those costume redesigns had a lot of lines in them. Like
yes, they did.
A lot of like piping lines and armor lines. Yeah. It was just a big emblem, but it was yellow outline around it. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a great costume design.
It is, especially here where it doesn't have all those lines. I don't have anything wrong. I don't have anything against the lines on some characters, and Batman is one that they can work for, but it looks better without them. You know?
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Of course. And yeah, I found myself thinking about the animated series a lot too while reading this because I've read Man-Bat in other places since then, but the animated series is still the thing that.
Yeah, that's kind of his definitive place, isn't it? Yeah, like that's where his definitive story was told almost to perfection.
The thing is that
that's just always compared.
But the thing is that story is a story that is as old as the 70s because that's when he first appeared, and every Man-Bat appearance since then, or the majority of them, has been kind of like a tweaking or a reimagining of that same story. I thought that this book was just like y'all. It was well done. It's well produced. I too liked the Batman in this, and as much as I liked those same aspects you just spoke about, B, the other aspect I liked is that there are moments in the book where Batman is just a shape on the page, a la the late great Norm Brayfogel's depiction of Batman, and it brought to mind his art, whose art I always liked more in theory than actually on the page. And this was the combination of where he's doing a little Norm Brayfogle here, and I like how it's landing. I'm feeling this one a little bit more, but again, at the end of the day, as much as like you said, no, this is old school comic booking, the way they used to do it in the 80s and 90s. There's a reason why the Man-Bat has been a character that hasn't been returned to that often. It becomes pretty much a one-note story. Am I kind of interested in where the story might go to see if it'll be different? Not really, because as it's set up, so now you're going to have him going against the Suicide Squad, right? So that doesn't sound really cool. I actually would have been more interested in. There was a few years ago, and now that I think about it, actually was a long time ago, over 20 years ago. There was a three issue prestige format Batman story that was Batman Man-Bat.
I remember
that treated Man-Bat more on a horror level or closer to horror, especially with the painted interiors of it. And I thought that this book might be a return to that type of vibe with Man-Bat. So I was intrigued to see if that was where they want to go. So maybe because this didn't meet my expectations, I didn't enjoy it, but I think I didn't enjoy it more because it was just more of the same with Man-Bat, and like I've seen this before.
Yeah, this maybe this would have been. So I think the consensus is that it's old hat, but it's well done, or like more of the same, but the same is fine,
right?
But maybe if they would have approached this as like like on a Black Label level, like do something harsher, do something different, do something, because like even to one of Brian's biggest pet peeves, like mucking up or dirtying up a previous character. There's no do it with this.
Yeah.
Mess with him, mess with his status quo, make him go darker, or treat, if they want to make an allegory for drug addiction or about junkies and stuff, do it. Actually, really do it. Why not?
Because it seems like they're going in the opposite direction here, where
they're trying to redeem him.
Well, and also he now no longer needs the serum to change into Man-Bat, so now it's just like a thing that he is.
That was I wasn't sure how that. That was like what was like channel what's left inside of you, or
yeah. I get the sense though that this is going to become like a synthesis of the two of them kind of character. That's what I'm thinking. I mean, they could go in a more Hulk kind of direction, or I don't know. I don't know where they'll head, but it kind of looks like he's caught in a weird place where he's not a villain, he's not a bad guy, but he also doesn't like he's not a hero either. Oh yeah, I remember that. Oh, that was an Elseworlds.
This is not the book we're talking about.
Okay,
but yes,
that's the Batman Man-Bat book from the '80s with Jamie Delano and John Bolton painted interiors that I was talking about. It was an Elseworlds story. It treated, but it was about Man-Bat. I think he turns his wife into a Man-Bat as well, and wants to turn the world into Man-Bat. It's a real creepy kind of story, but it's the first time I saw something different being done with the character. It was very cool.
The more we talk about this, the more I think like if anything, this is like this story was fine as is, but it really it more creates pangs of what it could have been or what they could have done, as opposed to it's fine. This is good. It's solid.
Yeah.
It's a Man-Bat story.
It's a Man-Bat story.
It's a Man-Bat story.
Well, Brian, did you want to stay?
I'll stick around. Wait, this is one more book, so.
Let's cap it up with something that was a late addition to the schedule. A very weird book that's by Aftershock Comics called Maniac of New York, written by Elliot Kalin, with art by Andrea Moody. So, solutions goes as follows. 4 years ago, a masked slasher began stalking the streets of New York City. Maniac Harry is inhuman, unkillable, and unstoppable, which is why the authorities' solution has been to ignore him and let New Yorkers adapt to a world where death can strike at any moment. When Maniac Harry starts killing his way through the subway system, trauma-haunted political aide Gina Green and disgraced NYPD detective Zelda Pettibone become determined to go rogue and destroy him. But how can they fight a monster when they can't fight City Hall? So, some background on this book. I read some Aftershock titles, and they have they have a practice of putting upcoming issue previews in the backs of their books.
Yeah.
Very grassroots kind of advertising beyond solicitations, because they're still a fledgling publisher. Mm-hmm. So I've read the first 5 pages of this book like 40 times. And I wasn't super interested in it. I don't because it's only up until the first. So this book starts with almost like a news briefing or a news channel. Mm-hmm. The preview doesn't go as far as giving you the rest of the newscast. So it was always just like, yeah, cool. Maniac kills a bunch of people and there's a vigil. Got it. The next page beyond that preview is when they give like the weather report and then how many victims also that day and where. And then it clicks like, oh, this is like a parody. and I'm here for that. Whereas the other concept felt boring. So I gave it another shot. And then I realized the writer, Elliot Kalin, I know who he is. I didn't like the name and it didn't click until I read the book. Elliot Kalin is an Emmy Award-winning writer for The Daily Show with Jon Stewart.
Oh. Wow.
He's been in the industry for a while. He's written a bunch of books. He also is a podcaster. The main show being The Flophouse, where him and 2 other friends talk about really bad movies, most of them genre movies. So they will dissect, movies that this kind of thing is based on. So with all of those pieces put together, I kind of started reading this in a different light. So this is mild parody written by somebody who intricately knows the tropes of this genre and can play with them. So my overall experience was it was pretty adorable. Like, it's an adorable book about a Jason-like character that can't be killed. And the weird realism of the city or any large city being like losing interest in trying to do something about it. So they really just kind of track his whereabouts, have like alerts and warnings, stay inside, don't talk to anybody. Like, like they, instead of trying to end it, they just try to adapt around it.
Right.
Which I thought was pretty interesting.
I thought it was really interesting. Like, one of the warnings is like, if you see something, scream something.
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of
yeah,
cool.
This is a very specific, the word that keeps coming to the top of my head is cute. It's oddly cute to me because I love horror movies and stuff, and just this kind of like concept. It's just cute. Brian, what do you think?
It reminded me a little bit of Mark Russell, in a way.
Yeah.
But not quite as deftly done as what it was. I found it to be very broad. Like, it was the lampooning was very broad. And when you read the solicit that said, that the city has just decided to ignore it or something like that, that is, if that had been spelled out just a little more, to crystallize that a little bit more in the book of like, oh, hey, you guys do this with other things like the climate or what have you, that are less present. And then the point that we're making is that this is just as dangerous as that, like that kind of thing. I think that could have been very successful for this book. Unfortunately, that was not done. But if you read the solicit, or if you now going forward, I might have that in mind, that could work out. It was. I think that was my take on it. Was like, it was well done. I don't know if this is his first foray into comics or like narrative storytelling.
No, he's done a bunch of children's books and novels, and he also was one of the, I think he was the head writer on the Mystery Science Theater 3000 reboot.
Oh, really? Oh, how about that?
Yeah, so it's a lot of comedy writing and a lot of
right
genre stuff.
But even that, like Mystery Science Theater 3000, I don't know what the reboot was like, but is not really
very funny.
It's not a story. It's them
it's not
like poking fun at a story. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So like introduction of concepts rather than introduction of jokes, like are different just mechanics wise. I think I maybe spent too much time wondering what the deal with this guy is for the purposes of the story. You know what I mean? I was like, well, how does this keep happening?
Well,
like, what's this?
They touch into it, which they set that up as the mystery of the book of his real first victims. And
right.
And there's also there's some back matter that actually that I found that impressive. There's in story back matter at the end of this book, maps of the killings and a grid, also some old newspaper clippings that are probably part of the mystery. So I know there, on one level it is a parody. On the other level, it's being done by somebody that understands the genre and they're actually trying to tell a genre story at the same time. Successful or not, I think I was just very impressed with the package.
The only thing that I'm bumping against right here in your review, is specifically with you, Noel, is the use of.
Let me mute you real quick. Hold on.
Is the use of the word parody, because I think the word you actually may be going for more is satire, because I think this is more a satirical look at the same things that you're talking about. Parody seems to makes me at least think of more you're lampooning it as opposed as opposed to you just maybe taking a slightly comical, cynical look at it. And I think that this lands for the most part in that aspect of it. The thing that actually was hitting with me was, and you talk about how the horrific can all of a sudden just become just a deadline or a headline or something that just flashes across your cell phone real quick, is, the world we live in, which now, we are losing thousands of people a day. And for many people, that is nothing but, you know, a chyron on the television screen. It is just a blurb that's in the corner of the news that you're watching that is focusing on some dumb shenanigans that is happening in Congress, you know? And for some people, it's nothing but an Instagram chart that they're sliding through so they can get to their funny cat pictures. So until, bam, it hits home and all of a sudden the subway doors open and there's someone laying there in a pool of blood. And it's that much more immediate. And
that scene was spectacular, by the way.
Yes.
You get the internal monologue of a character you just meet complaining about all of these things. Like, she wants this stupid frat stock bro to leave. She wants this guy to shut the fuck up. And then all of a sudden the doors open and it's just like, oh, none of it matters. And I like the idea that they've set up very deftly. They set up this idea of the automated subway car. This is the entire book right here. So you've got this automated subway car that is constantly traveling, 231 potential victims, and these two cops who are the only ones that want to try and stop it. So this is like a Die Hard situation now, where you've got a speeding train that only stops on occasion. You've got 230 people that are about to die, and only 2 people that really give a shit trying to track down and chase the train. This is an awesome conflict and you know what, you're right. So the satire is almost just like maybe the icing on the cake. Right. The cake is still baked really well.
Yeah. I found myself enjoying this. It reads almost like if you were to take the world today and put it in a periodical the drama or procedural drama.
Yeah.
That's what this is. And it's so spot on. It is funny when it needs to be, but it is definitely serious when you don't expect it to be. It hits you right over the head. The art is very, very, very good. It's so lived in that I loved it. And you know me, I'm a big proponent of the fonts. I love the use. I love the fonts that they use with this because it just matched it so good. I mean, the packaging is so well done. I enjoyed every act, the muted colors of it. This is some good comic booking right here, man. I loved it. I love this book. I am in there. I am with it.
Yeah, there's almost like a Dustin Nguyen kind of painterly style to it. And honestly, the cover had me. I don't know, like if you guys saw this cover. It's just spectacular.
Yeah, it's well done.
That cover's a movie poster. That cover is a movie poster waiting to happen.
The more we talk about it, the more I kind of like it. Like it's on the surface, it's a satire, and I was using those terms incorrectly. Thank you for calling me out. But it's not unlike how Shaun of the Dead. Shaun of the Dead is a satire of zombie movies, but it doesn't take any shortcuts about being an actual zombie movie at the same time.
Exactly.
So it's not a romantic comedy, but it also is. It's not a this, but it also is. At the bare minimum, at the base level, it is a actual zombie movie. There's just funny characters that respond differently to this shit. But then when it gets real, which I kind of dug about this. Yeah, I think I'm going to pull this. I'm going to read this series. This is fun.
Nice.
You guys can enjoy it and trade.
Yeah. I'm curious to see as it goes on. Maybe you'll check back in and be like, we're issue 4. And here's the
knows me well. I just didn't say it. I will be buying this in trade.
Enjoy it in trade. Look, there's enough room in this world for every type of reader. The only thing that I would highly suggest is be sure to pre-order the shit you like, because if you don't, it gets canceled.
That's true. That is very true.
Even collections. So I hate all these. Sorry, I don't hate trade waiters. You just have to realize that if you don't pre-order, shit gets canceled.
Yeah.
It could be solicited. That doesn't necessarily mean anything. If you don't let your retailer know to order it, they don't make the book eventually and print it to send it. Like they cancel it or push it off.
Well, fortunately, you have a zip line to your retailer, Noel, because we've been notified that it's already been added to your list.
There you go.
Oh, really? He's got it in there? Yeah, but I mean, we have to support. Oh,
I knew he was going to call me out. I knew he was going to call me out. Okay. This is it's cool. It's fine. The reason I don't do that, JD, and I'll be honest with you, bro.
Well, now what is it? It says for a guy who only reads trades, he doesn't seem to order many trades from his good friend Jadles. Says his good friend Jadles with an LOL at the end.
He's a good friend.
Here's the deal. I'm an old school comic book guy. I've never had a pull list at any comic book store I've ever gone to. I just don't. I don't do pull lists. And the reason why I don't do pull lists is because I like the idea of going to the comic book store and just buying stuff that I want to buy. That is the biggest thing that's happened to me in this pandemic. Do I not get to go there and shoot the shit with Jadles or go to my other comic book store, Amalgam, or even a couple of the other comic book stores that I journey to not as often as those two and talk to those people? That's what I miss. But I would go there and I'd buy the books that I like, and then I'll look through the trades and I buy, this trade came out. I buy this, this trade up. I like doing that. I like shopping for comic books. That's why I don't do pull lists. That's why I don't, and maybe I'm a bad customer in that way. I don't pre-order. And I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to change. I'm going to buy trades though. And there are certain trades that JD knows. I will tell him like, can you get this for me in trade? I'm going to get it. And he knows that, and I will buy that. But more often than not, I like shopping for comics. I don't like shopping for clothes. I don't like shopping for food. I like shopping for comics. And that's what I do.
Action Figure Expert says, wow, Len, I'm surprised you've never had a pull list. What if someone or a particular issue has sold out? What do? You just miss it.
I don't miss it. I then ask my retailer if there's a way I can get a copy of it, and then they will find a copy of it for me. That's why I do have the two main comic book stores that I go to. Usually between the two, I can find it. I'm good friends with the owners there, so they usually will find a way of getting the books for me.
Was there not ever a time, Len, when it was like, I'm going to be reading Batman for the foreseeable future, and just like have one for me? Or it's just that, it's never the deal. All right.
Honestly, I used to be that kind of. Well, I mean, there was a time when I lived in Florida where I didn't have a normal comic shop. So I would actually just kind of look and see what shit was coming out and then go opening that day and just grab it. It wasn't until a couple months in that, the shop owner was just like, see, here's a subscription list. What are you doing? Like, oh, okay. But yeah, no, I get that. Like, I'd like to just peruse racks. Absolutely. Like, even though I have a pull list with JD, it's also always a, what else is there? I've never heard of this shit. What's this? What's that? What's this? Like, there's still
there has never been a week where I go in and pick up my pulls that I don't also check out. Like, what came out? That kind of thing. Yeah.
But it's also part of me is that I don't read previews. So I don't really, outside of doing this, because for all the time I did Black Tribbles, I would know when new comic books were coming out because they usually come on the show to promote it and stuff like that. And you kind of like read the news a little bit so you know like, oh, this new book is going to be coming out. But I will always stay away. I hate spoilers, so I will stay away from really story-specific type of stuff. I don't read previews because I don't want to know what's happening 4 months down the line. I want to know what's happening here this month because this is what I care about. I don't want to know what's happening 4 months down the line. That's a spoiler to me.
Yeah, I agree with that one.
Wait, hang on. Okay, so when it comes to like the big two solicitations, I don't really like. I don't ever read the paragraphs other than them being on the show or copying pasting them. But I do look and see what's coming because I don't know. I love the idea of like, oh, this person's going to be starting a book. I definitely want to make sure that I get that. Or I do it most specifically with like Boom and Image and stuff. Because it's always new for the most part.
True.
So I will always those are the solicitations I always go through first. Like when I go pick up my books that week that a preview is out, JD just usually plops it in front of me, and then it starts with image and boom. The book starts with image and boom, and I literally just leaf it and take pictures of my phone of like, that looks cool, that looks cool, that looks cool, and then I'll look it up. But we literally could do a 1 hour live stream without any spoilers, just talking about like, this new book called Stray Dogs is coming out from Image. It looks pretty cool. These creators did this and this. Maybe this book looks pretty cool. Everyone's talking about it. Like, just introducing the ideas of these books without them being spoilers. Because honestly, if it's not DC or Marvel, all these books usually need traction.
That's true.
They need people to know, because the way that the direct market works, if there's no pre-orders, there's no issue 4.
Right.
So
yeah, but I got a funny feeling, and I could be wrong, but I have a funny feeling that the market for these newer comic book companies, and the reason why they seem to have a lot more legs than the smaller comic book companies of yesterday did, is because they have gotten away, or they have found a way that, they want the individual issues to sell. But as much as they might solicit something as an ongoing, they're really in this for the trades. So I got a funny feeling their ongoings are, we're going to do, this is ongoing, and this is the first story of the ongoing. And if it sells, then we will on-go to another one. But if it doesn't, then this one story will live in this trade, and it'll rock on. I think they really have locked on to marketing primarily for the trades, man. So
JD had mentioned in the chat, I'm just going to go ahead and pre-order every book you say you'll read and trade on the podcast. I assume just to be a good friend.
Okay. All right.
And then you'll accidentally find it in the wild on the lens shelf that he'll specifically have you in the shelf.
Somebody else goes to pick a book from the
I'm gonna say, if anybody that's listening wants to from now on keep track of the books that Len says he's going to read and trade, we will review full trades of that later down the road.
Okay, how many books have I said?
I don't know.
We Live. Maniac of New York.
We Live.
So let's keep track right now. We Live, definitely. Rorschach.
Yes.
Yeah. We'll do a full on.
Maniac in New
Far
York.
Sector? Was that? We've read a lot of those already.
But I did say I'm going to get Far Sector and trade.
That came out this week, and
that's 4. What else?
I don't know. Jay,
no, I did say I would get. It's not 32 books. I'm pretty sure I said I would probably buy the first Legion trade, Brian Michael Bendis Legion trade, even though I'm iffy on that because the art goes up and down in that book.
Yeah.
But I can't think of anything else.
It's like 80%.
Well, that's why we need a list.
Yeah. Right, so if Saint Saucy wants to keep a list of ongoing things for us to really bug Len about, let's do it.
Feel free to add things that he never said, and we'll be like, no, you did say it. It's on the list.
Something tells me JD is compiling that list right now. It'll be on a whiteboard behind him the next episode.
Yeah, it's the Len's pull list, aka Baby Destructo College Fund. He's just adding things.
Was it the omnibus of?
He didn't mention he wanted the prestige edition, but
he probably does.
What's an extra $100?
Right. You know what I wonder, speaking of how smaller companies can very good. JD loves us and he's howling, he says. I wonder how much those smaller companies, digital is a thing now when it wasn't in the 90s. And once you have a digital copy, you have as many digital copies as you want. So if they can offset some of their cost in that part of the market, I have no idea.
There's more and more you're reading about books that are being pre-sold or pre-financed. Mm-hmm. So let's say Boom Studios, they have a first look deal with Netflix.
Yeah.
So everything that they like, they're not funded by Netflix to make books, but everything that they create that's new IP potentially has a production incentive attached to it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Just like the big two kind of seem like sometimes, where it's like, I mean,
not seem like they
more than seem
genuinely are. Disney owns and this. So and I think like all of Mark Miller's stuff is owned by Netflix.
Yeah.
But then also they're doing this thing now that I personally don't like, but it's a way to pre-fund the book before it hits issues. Is they're going on crowdfunding websites now and they're pre-selling collected editions and prestige format editions of books that haven't even come out yet. So like the new, and I'm sure we'll talk about it in a month when it comes out, but the new Keanu Reeves Berserker book.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Bloom Studios went on Kickstarter and they pre-sold 3 giant absolute style books of this series that hasn't even started yet.
Which ultimately, if that helps us get more art, more comics, it can be a good thing.
Net positive, I guess. Yeah. Like there's like for like $500 you get 3 large books.
Right. But and if somebody's willing to do it, go for it.
But it's a weird precedent. Personally, it makes me feel icky because it completely sidesteps the direct market.
Sure. Well, there is that aspect. Yeah. That part is not so great.
So they're pre-selling these books.
Yeah.
Which will fund the series in issues for so they won't have to ever be working from a deficit. However, you've got all these very, very interested consumers who now don't have to bother. Right. So you're potentially getting more readers by pre-funding it, but you're also potentially shutting the door on the more fervent fans that would have been there anyway.
Although any word of mouth, if this helps it get produced, any future editions presumably would at least have the potential to be sold in stores. Yeah. And so, whereas these early, at least potentially, they could be on a trade somewhere, and that kind of ties into another thought that I had about something Len was saying, where they are writing, they're with a trade in mind, right? And that definitely does seem to be something that maybe beginning with DVD sales has started to come more and more into the way that we get pop culture. I feel like there's much more, or with streaming, there's much more value in having a completed story than there used to be, because, and I think it comes over into comics too, where there is an eye to that trade on the horizon, where it's like, if we can just get this many issues out, this trade can be forever on a bookshelf, whenever we want to print one.
And also too, the way that the direct market works with pre-solicitations, you're always going to, things get abruptly canceled, but gone are the days of things getting abruptly canceled, or mostly gone are the days of things getting abruptly canceled mid-arc or mid-story, because they're solicited 3 to 4 months in advance, meaning that if I'm on issue 2 and the book is not selling at all and it's going to get canceled, there's already pre-orders usually for, up to issue 5 or 6. So if anything, they'll announce to cancel and the writer has the ability to at least finish their shit. And it's going to be a trade there. I mean, stuff still gets preemptively or prematurely shelved or canceled, but they usually always at least try and bake in the secondary market of trades and stuff as a loss leader. Look, we at least got a collection of this shit now.
Right, exactly. And it's so much more valuable if you have a collection with a finished story, no matter how rushed it is compared to what it would have been. That is way more sellable than here's 3 issues that were pretty cool and never wrap up.
Yeah. Right. I don't know. I just the crowd. I get janky about any time that the man, whatever, of just the model to exclude the retailers, only because the retailers are basically their only real cheerleaders. The books moving new books moving are based usually off word of mouth of the retailers, whether that's digitally or otherwise.
Yeah, they are salespeople.
No one's going to know.
Books, sure.
No one's going to, like, without the giant public marketing apparatus of, hey, look, here's this new book. It's usually word of mouth. Like, the example of having Keanu Reeves on a book, that's a big deal. That'll get you press.
Sure.
But literally everything else is usually always word of mouth for the first couple of months, and then doing these things that cut them out of the conversation, or at least make them only an afterthought of the conversation, always feels weird to me.
Yeah. I think this is a conversation that we can continue perhaps on our February holiday President Valentine edition of Drunk Gutter Talk.
Wonderful.
Which we will be programming and setting a date for maybe as soon as we turn off the microphones.
Maybe.
Or the cameras.
Yeah, we should keep our microphones on if we want to talk to each other.
JD's asking, he's chatting in everything. There's
of course. He's all over the place. Because he's on his phone someplace, he's on a computer another place.
He asked if we had decided what the monthly book club was. No, we'll do it. I guess we'll do it offline. I mean, if you don't know, we don't know.
Yeah, we had almost selected one, but then it turns out that was out of print, and so we maybe we're gonna pick something else. But we'll no is the answer. I think. Yeah.
Yeah. The short answer is no, but maybe we'll come up with something thematic. President's Day or Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
President's Day or Valentine's Day. Oh, I've got one. JD's probably done it before.
What is this going to be?
Oh, I'll be right back.
If he's not coming back with Prez, the Mark Russell's Prez. But I don't think it's in print anymore.
No, it just came out, right?
I mean,
longer ago than I remember.
A couple years ago.
Was it that long? Oh, okay. Yeah.
It was still 2 DC logos ago.
Oh my. Which is quicker in succession recently, but still, that's a while.
Okay, I actually don't know how good this fits in with the theme, but it's the comic book that came to my mind. It's by Fabio Moon and Gabriel Ba. It's an old comic book, and it's called Day Tripper.
Day Tripper. Cool. You know what? I've always wanted to. I have a wife. There she is.
Oh yeah.
I have a copy of this, and I've never gotten past issue 5. I'm down. I'd read it.
I'm interested.
Day Tripper. I'll just give you the one sentence from the back. What are the most important days of your life? The miracle child of a world-famous Brazilian writer, Braz spends his days penning other people's obituaries and his nights dreaming of becoming a successful author himself, writing the end of the people's stories while his own has barely begun. But on the day that life begins, would he even notice? I read this comic book more than a few years ago when I first bought it, and this was just almost life-altering for me in much the same way that True Stories changed my life by Tom Beeland. And I just think this is just a very beautiful comic book. JD says that he's been wanting to read Day Tripper, so like this is it.
Yeah. I'm not sure that I've heard of it before, but the cover looks really cool.
It's a Vertigo book. It's a Vertigo.
Cool. No.
Cool.
It's DC. Oh yeah. I'm sorry. My copy is DC Black Label.
Right.
Because it's a newer print.
Yeah.
Fabio Moon and Gabriel Ba are fantastic. Cool. This came out over
2011.
a decade ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
2011.
A decade ago. Yeah. This came out a decade ago, and it was it's 10 issue. It's a 10 issue maxi series, full story, and this happened between those first two. It was funny. Fabio Moon and Gabriel Ba, brother and sister, or brother and brother, twin brothers. They used they moved from. I lost headphones. They moved from. They alternated art on. What's that Mad Fraction book?
Yeah.
Oh, very.
They're twin brothers who were born in Brazil, where they live to this day. They have their friends there, and their family is their home. They've been telling stories in comic book form for almost 15 years, and their work has been published in France, Italy, Spain, Greece, Japan, Germany, as well as in the U.S. and Brazil. They like their coffee black with no sugar, so the taste is strong and memorable. They believe stories should taste equally strong and be just as memorable. They work with a fresh pot that's always handy to make sure they never forget that.
Wonderful.
I mean,
yeah, I love these guys.
That's just talking about the creators, cool. And it's beautiful.
Yeah.
They do. They also do Umbrella Academy with Gerard Way.
They both do?
No, I think it's just. I
thought it was just Gabriel Ba.
I think it's just Gabriel Ba.
Okay.
Ba.
So they both write and draw this Day Trippers like together.
Yeah, they both write it and draw it together. They're both artists and writers on their own right. I don't know.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm much more familiar with Gabriel Ba, but only really from Umbrella Academy. But I mean, it's great. Yeah, this looks really good. Yeah,
I have Casanova, and yeah, I've yet to completely read it. It's you have to like really be down with the esoteric, weird math.
Very true.
And sometimes it's great. Sometimes I'm like, well, I don't want to read all this right now.
Yeah, I didn't finish it, but I remember it being kind of like fun.
Yeah. Sweet, nice.
All right, a day tripper it is. What's the last Friday or what's the last Sunday of February? I think it's only like 3 weeks away.
Oh Jesus! All right,
yeah, maybe it'll be a week off.
Yeah, so we'll have to do. Well, we can't do it if JD can't be there because JD.
Actually, the 28th is a Sunday, so the last day of the month.
There you go.
We do the book club, so I mean, he'll be a couple weeks into fatherhood at that point.
Oh, that's true.
We'll see.
And so we're going to go, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to set the date for our holiday special. It will be coming. We're going to make it happen. We didn't just tickle you with a feather today. We're going to make it happen. All right. So just trust. We're going to do it.
The day. Oh, it's the day after his day.
Cool.
That's a nice reminder.
Yeah.
Anyway, so thank you for joining us for the last 2+ hours. We had a really, really good time talking to you guys. We really appreciate you spending this time with us. Be sure to like and subscribe, jump in the comments, engage with us. Be sure to hit the bell notification so you know when we go live as well as when we post new content during the week. There was a couple of videos we did this past week. There will be a couple that we do coming up. Write about us in your diary. Put it fold it on paper, put it in a bottle, throw it out.
Oh, those are always cool when they come back so many years later and you hear those stories. That's fun.
Yeah, and then hopefully whatever social media thing that people are using at that time, they'll look us up and we won't be dead.
Hopefully.
Anyway, So thank you. Don't forget to join us next week at the very least, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here on YouTube as well as wherever you stream your content. We love you guys. You can find me on social media at Mr. Bartocci, MrBartocci, as well as any of the CultPop podcast feeds. Brian, where can the people find you?
I'm at brianliebdesign.com or brianlieb.com. Same website. 2 addresses.
Fine.
Hey, what's up? You can holler at Len the Bat Tribble at Bat Tribble or at Black Tribbles. Too cool to be geeks, too cute to be nerds. We are Black Tribbles. Look us up on all social media. We rock out with you.
Cool.
And be sure to visit JD at JD's Hero Complex in Manayunk. I forgot the address. Don't remember.
4327 seems like it might be the case.
4327
seems like something I've heard a bunch before. Those numbers are almost definitely in there. But
or you can visit him on jdsherocomplex.shop for your comic needs. Have a good week. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.